It's a little treat. It's been interesting, an extra creative day. So sometimes I like to share, depending. And I have a little time today. So I will share some of my poetry with purpose. I definitely could be somewhat, I feel like one of my divine gifts could be maybe, as they call it, ghost writing, journalism, and all of that, because it is such a healthy way to express yourself. And sometimes you could just be alone, and all of a sudden, you're being showered with divine downloads, right, guys? And I put the name of my channel in the title. I find that it helps the algorithm get to know you more, push your content a little bit more too. So, oh, she got the green book out. My channel is actually a business, so I do have an EIN. So I've been tracing back some of my history, a lot of cool lineage, a lot of diplomatic and very regal indeed. So some of the things that I gravitate toward, I'm not surprised. Hi, sis. This is a treat because we're usually on different time frames. So welcome. I don't have my readers on, so I'm going to try my best. Definitely sharing some good stuff today. Just been observing, got my new shirt, and I've been shopping at this really cute store online. It's like 70s themed. I'm telling you, we can join forces too, because I like to get a sewing machine. I've been getting so much, insight. Just like I get these bright ideas. So I love having notebooks because, that's like the worst feeling, brainstorming, as they say, right? And then forgetting, So I have designs in my head. I want to make my own. I wouldn't say just merch, like that's becoming so like, passe. But, instead of like, what Coco Chanel and the rest of them, Ralph Lauren, like I could have my own line, and I have like really high quality, cute, shirts that I would like to wear. And there is nothing like that out there, and just have like certain detail on it and have like high quality fabric. So, definitely getting better as far as like maybe sketching and all of that. Cause you almost got to have like the blueprint, right? And to put it on paper. But I hope you're doing well, my dear. If you're in and out, that's totally fine. And I love when you're moderating because you just never know. I do get a lot of trolls, which is sickening because I've supported a lot of channels before, but I had to learn my lesson because then it doesn't come back, right? Especially when they're misogynist. And it's like, really? Well, that's not very godly. So I don't feel safe in those spaces. But there's others that have been really respectful, and I appreciate them. So I share back, any of my divine downloads and work that I've been doing, even though, I'm working just like everyone else, just getting by in this crazy system. There's crazy things happening all the time, but I stay the course, and your soul yearns to do things that are positive. You can turn pain into poetry. You can turn it into positivity. So as someone who loved English class, and I like to learn new words, expand my vocabulary, that just helps so much when you need to come up with, some literature. All of a sudden you might have some songs on your heart. You might be like, wow, this can really be great lyrics. You know what I mean? We need some more conscious music, and people think it's just the guys that are doing it, but us girls, you know what I mean? I'm like, what do I need? A beat? I need someone to make me a beat, right? And then I need to spot off some of my work, right? And it actually be good, because when you think about it, doing your own stuff, like we have so many great ideas that are better than what you see out there, because it's like the same stuff and everybody's so cookie cutter and so, and you're just like, that's just not my spirit, I definitely was the creative type, but also, I like to learn the math and all of that too. So yeah, so I do my Dia Dash or Dia Dash, however you like to call it. Oh, I gotta fix this. I got my True North here too. I got all my EINs from the IRS. You know how you can, see all that. It's good to put it. Oh, I even got my little baby. It's good to put all your stuff. Like I literally have, I put my life estate together, and you can turn, instead of having it where it's like government property, where they give you, a cheap playing piece, as they say, right? The social, you can turn your stuff, you can take ownership. And that's what some of us talk about too, right? Of taking control of that, small vessel that they created, and you can dock it in your private, larger vessel or more private vessel, right? So I've learned to do that. I even, I was like light years ahead too, where I even made my current name now too, also another private entity. So it's really cool. And then you can like make the trustee. So it's like kind of cool. So I knew to do all that. So there you go. Because like, why let them turn you into a highly taxed corporation? But that's like deep divine knowledge, which, some people think that you have to be in some weird secret society. It doesn't work like that. And I find that divine downloads are a gift to the individual, especially when you keep your soul clean and you try to think about, good and righteous things. And you can kind of, have that, experience where you're being cleansed from the inside out, and your state of mind will be clear too, so you can receive those divine downloads, right? That's why in these religions, they have like the cleansing ritual and anointing and all of that, so you can be, clean. Like they say, cleanliness is next to godliness. So you can be clear to receive that, right? Not everybody does. And it's not partial to just going to church, right? Because you can go to church for many, many years and not receive, any real insight, right? And that is a divine privilege as it is. People think, oh, you're going to get some type of like magical power or something, right? If you get closer to God. And I believe having discernment and that deep understanding, right, is a divine gift, right? And you can go to as many, theology classes or whatever, as much as you want, and not learn past your teacher, right? So it takes your own study too, in your own path, and being your own creative type, right? Not just a consumer, not, you know what I mean? So like, the Bible talks about, don't you know not that ye are gods, like, a lesser form of a power, but we're more than the animals, that we have creative power. And then we have the ability to write and be a composer, right? A sort of composer, and bring it all together. And, this is how music is made. And I was always one to listen more to the lyrics than I did to the beat, although you can get caught up in the beat. But there's a lot of demonic messages that they implant, right? While you're getting lost, right? While you're a slave to the rhythm, right? Like how the songs say. And then you can find yourself like chanting some really derogatory stuff, right? And so that kind of lowers the mentality. And I was showing clips of The Sopranos. I had to, I couldn't help it. I can definitely relate, right? No, I'm not part of whatever. Who knows what our loved ones are doing behind our backs or whatever, right? I don't deal in certain circles, but some of those scenes I can relate to, and I can see like the nature of people. And I learned to like turn that and forge my own path, right? Because that life is crazy. Life in itself is crazy too. And people glorify all the wrong things, right? And so it makes you think, right? So much more. It's like, okay, they do all this stuff, and then they'll have like a crazy ending or like a dramatic demise. And yeah, it's okay to like have your experiences and, find some level of contentment in this world. But when you forget that this world is temporary, right? And that, we're all just have like a finite time, and you don't leave like a real legacy, right? That can endure, that you can be proud of. You can amass all of, the fortunes of the world. And at the end of it, you still gonna like check out of here, right? And, how you got it, how you went about it, matters too, because, there's a reaction, and a lot of people, don't have empathy for anyone else. They're like, oh, it's a dog eat dog world, everyone out for themselves, survival of the fittest. But when the shoe drops and it happens to them or their children, then they get all sentimental, right? Because I've seen scenes, from that show. And it's like, oh, when it's happening to their own kids, right? So it's like God don't play, there's like a higher force in action, definitely. But, I like to produce things, and, it's good to be a creative type. And if you have a lot of things going on, or, a lot of us have a lot of stories to share, put that together in a book. Hey, if you don't want people to know your business like that, you can take your life story and kind of turn it into like a fiction, and like change the characters' names. I swear they're doing that now with like some of our life stories. Have you ever watched like a scene and you're like, that hits too close to home? And I know some people are like, oh, you shouldn't share. Oh, that just gives a license to people to treat you. No, I let people know that this stuff can happen to anyone, but that doesn't mean you're going to put up with it. If anything, you're very hyper vigilant. You're very aware of these things, right? And, the person should know better, right? Because you're not going to react like, like a weak, idiot, right? Hey, maybe the Grim Reaper has a sister. I was going to create my own character. What do you think? She's going to be called Grinny Reaper. Have you ever felt, I don't know, I've had like this crazy sense that I could call things before it happened. It was so crazy. The gentleman that was stabbed in my hometown, which is crazy because I'm not trying to say some of this was staged, but you can have like a song that comes to mind. You can have a thought that comes to mind, right? And it can be something that you didn't just hear. It could be something old, or some lyrics can just come to mind. You're like, where did this come from, right? And then you can hear a story, which I heard that story of a gentleman that I went to high school with. He has partial interest in a local dispensary. So I guess he got hurt. He was assaulted like right outside of it, right? And like a week or two ago, I don't know how I started, like I listened to a little bit of Milli Vanilli, some of the older songs. I feel for them because, hey, half of those artists are probably lip singing and whatever else. Like, but they had that song, what is it, Blame It on the Rain, right? And then we had a couple of rainstorms, right? And I was like, I had that song in my head, like songs with rain and, storm, like all of these like terms were coming to my mind. And then when you read the news article of what happened, he's on Facebook. He has a Facebook page, right? William Flanagan. It's still posted, the video. So if you go on Facebook and you put William Flanagan, right? Shout out to him. Hopefully he recovers. But like I had this weird like premonition that I was like even thinking that. And I'm like, is this even real, right? Because you'll see things manifest and you almost feel like, oh my gosh, what's this weird divine insight where I can call things. But in this city, they're very spiritual too. There's a lot of, mediums, which I'm not that, but you know what I mean? Very deeply spiritual people. And they use people like that for like detective cases and all that, which is wild. He did a little like video doing a promo for his dispensary. And he was singing Blame It on the Rain. He was singing that song in it. And he was talking about the rain. And I'm like, what in the hell? And literally right after uploading that, he got stabbed in the neck a few times, they say. I'm like, this is out of control. This is unbelievable, right? And the article said something about a storm coming or whatever. They talk in very esoteric lingo. And there's a lot of different types of vernacular, especially on here too. because when some of us use certain words, it doesn't always mean in the, sense that others use it. Like when I say jokes like, hey, tricks are for kids, I'm not talking about a man who is spoiling a woman or whatever certain people say it is, right? It's someone who is trying to deceive you and have an act of deception, or, you know what I mean? To swindle you or something like that, right? So that's really interesting too. It's, how to be able to decipher, and I can understand all the different types of vernacular. So, some of us have that keen ear, and that's a gift that you're born with or you're not, and you have to be like open to it and like cultivate it over time, because it's not something, oh, you go to church and they're gonna just like sprinkle whatever on you and all of a sudden, you know what I mean, you're gonna have all this stuff. Because I'll see family members and they'll upload their public worship services, which worship can happen in private, I think. If you want to fellowship and all that, that's great. But the deepest connection can happen when you're alone with your own thoughts without all the noise of the world, right? And all of a sudden, you can put a whole sermon together on your own even, right? And then they'll put videos online and they're like, it's just a concert. It's a constant concert all the time. And it's just someone playing music and they're just, so I'm like, and the concerts are kind of like a public worship service too, because, a lot of people will know every lyric to every song. And then when, I may say something like, I think I said that once, like at work, cleanliness is godliness. And he goes, oh, Smashing Pumpkins, the guy from Smashing Pumpkins said that. And I'm like, he didn't come up with that. That is in the Bible. You freaking rockers, I can't with you. I'm like, they're taking like, ideas, or they're being inspired, and it's like biblical though, you know what I mean? Like you can kind of match it up, right? Rest for the wicked, that song, right? That's that's from Cage the Elephant. So I like to listen to different type of things and just have like my ear. I have like a keen ear. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, I want to like spout out my own lyrics. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like I wouldn't say I would be a rapper, but I'm like, oh, I'm a great writer. I could probably have someone that could, sing it for me. I got some great songs. And it's so cool, right? So I like to, help people too with my Dia Dash production house, I like to say, is help people express themselves in a healthy way. I love putting up some of the clips with Janice from The Sopranos. I swear I'm a little bit of Janice, Meadow, and Adriana all in one. I used to be called Adriana constantly at my old job. I think I shared that with you all. I thought that was so funny, but like, yeah, that lifestyle is like not to be glorified. And a lot of those people are like commingled in the church too. They're very deeply religious and they're conflicted, they're double-minded and all of that stuff, right? But you can have that divine inspiration anywhere, and it is a gift because you can go through your whole life and think like this is all there is. And I know that people, as they get older, they gotta like look deeper and see like there's more to it or whatever. So they start to get a little, nervous about it and like hyper religious or super spiritual or whatever. And others, it's like, I don't know where they think that their consciousness goes, right? Because science really can't explain that. All like it can explain is like the what, like, can describe the house, right? And the mechanics of it by observing, but who built it? You know what I mean? And, obviously it was built for a purpose, right? So you can like study it and how it moves and it works and things like that. And a lot of people don't realize that their own bodies is a sort of a house too, So wherever you go, there you are. So you're taking on, all the different energies around, and you have to be able to channel that in a positive way. And there's nothing spooky or creepy about that, because I learned that you have to be like that, because you can be sitting in a congregation and some are cool, but you can be sitting in others where you're like, I'm not getting any, divine nourishment. This person is not, divinely inspired. And they're so quick, right? To, the people that, the false accusers, I like to call them, the good book, calls them out too, are the ones who are dealing with the most fraud and the most falsehood. And they think that they can, blame or bully or whatever they do, because a lot of the times they act like, they can form a trauma bond with their group or their audience and all of that stuff. And you can come in, with good intentions, and then all of a sudden it turned into something really corrupt. So you're like, okay, I'm not giving this my energy. I can do better. I can be a better example, because I'm sure a lot of us have been let down by different congregations, or you see how people behave, and you're like, no, I'm okay, so you got to take your gift that you're given, and you can put it in where it needs to be. I mean, who says you can't be a movie producer or a novelist or a songwriter or anything? Because you can see a lot of celebrities and they can just, without having a script, they're like dry, and a lot of people put them on some godlike status, right? But they're just spouting off somebody else's work. It's not like they were the writer, producer, and performer. You know what I mean? So, like, I'm showing you that you can produce your own work, and you can be independent, and you can, be a success and do it in a righteous way, right? Let me see the comments. I'm sorry. You're on it. Thank you, sis. Appreciate your encouragement. Well, my voice is a little crackalack, and I went out a few days ago just to support a local artist. The hubby dragged me out. I'm not a bar person in any way. It's taken me days just to recover from that one beer. When you treat your body like it's a Ferrari, shout out to the Ferrara clan and dynasty. I kept that as my middle name. And that's another variation of the word Ferrari. When you put things that are cheap in your body, you feel it. And I had to work the next day, sadly, which I do not like, working Sabbaths, of course. That's a whole other discussion. But, to glory be the God giving me the, opportunities that I have. And he knows that, I'm forever having him in my heart, damn what anybody else is saying. A lot of people, they call themselves a God, and I'm like, yeah, okay, you can't extend your lifespan. You don't even have control of where your soul's going to go, right? So I'm like, yeah, I mean, some people can think that way too, and they can think, God is dead and then there's no such thing. It doesn't explain how there's like such a divine order and how everything got here. And regardless, maybe you don't realize now, but at some point, I'm sure the truth will be revealed at some point, you know what I mean? And like on the other side, it's just like a movie too. Some people get so caught up and they're like, oh my gosh, they get scared of getting older, but it's like watching a movie. Are you going to go halfway into it and be so scared of like the ending, or are you going to keep rewinding it back to the beginning to see how, because you like the way it just started and how some of the highlights, but don't you want to know how it's going to end too, right? So, and everyone has their different versions. They're like, I know some relatives who are like, they hear the word Jesus and they go into a tizzy, like this is some like holy than thou name, and they forget about the Father, the Creator. And then I'm just like, okay, now you turned him into God. I understand his preaching and his principles, but they get like wicked triggered, and it's like they sound like a bunch of, like robots repeating the same thing constantly. And I'm like, okay, well, what if that's, calling on Jesus wasn't the way? Maybe just calling on God, knowing that there was a God that created a so-called Jesus or Muhammad or all the stuff, right? And just, doing right by, some type of moral code. But no, they want to live their life like they think they're going to get, 72 virgins and all this stuff. Like, how is that even heaven to some people? That is so disgusting, first of all. Again, more very pedophilic kind of thinking. And doesn't the Bible say that people will be like the angels? you're not going to be given in marriage. Maybe maybe you'll be like above the feeling of that. Like, gosh, wouldn't you like to experience life without being chained to your physical desires of hunger, lust, and, being tired and all of that? Like, so it's definitely deep, but like people are like, where'd you get, how you thinking like that? Oh, what are you smoking? I'm like, is my point of view. It has to be all this and that. Okay, no, I like to keep myself clear. And even with herbs, believe it or not, I feel more clear, more in control than even with one drink. Okay. I felt like I was like in cement, like slow motion, like quicksand. I was like, whoa, I am ready for bed. I feel like it's like putting alcohol like in the tank of your car. I don't know. Like my body was already like, I felt like dry. Okay. Um, Actually that made me think of some song lyrics. Oh, hold on. You're so high in the sky, you leave their mouth dry. You're so high in the sky, you leave their mouth dry. So yeah, I'm not a good like I guess I could be like a slam poet. I don't know what I could be, right? But it's so good to like express like I could just take something. It would be a really good exercise, right? Maybe I can do like a workshop on Patreon where we could just like choose a word or a concept and kind of like parlay on that. It's such a good like memory exercise too. It definitely, and it makes you think like bigger, right? But it was so funny because I was thinking about, what if I don't practice Halloween and the rest of it, but I can appreciate that there are spirits out there. And, there was something called like the death angel, and there's angels of the Lord, and they were dispatched to, do certain things or bring upon God's judgment because he don't like get off his throne. He has like deputies, ambassadors, or whatnot, right? Like divine messengers, earth angels, all of this stuff, right? So, I'm seeing people with like different shirts and they have one of like the Grim Reaper. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe I watched Addams Family too many times, and I'm like, oh, I should make a story, right? Like I can make a whole book, and it's like meet, Grinny Reaper, right? Which is the Grim Reaper's sister, right? Because you'd be surprised, not that I'm like, oh, super proud of it, where I would call certain things, right? And people being close to their demise more than they thought, right? Or, people who have, done really wicked things, right? And, not have any remorse. You call in certain things, right? Not that you wish to, but like you don't have that type of power, right? You know what I mean? You could just be like, but that God has your back too. And that, people reap what they sow. That's why I was thinking about Grim Reaper, Grinny Reaper, right? You reap what you sow what you reap kind of thing too. And that sometimes, what do they say? There's worse things than death, right? And that's to be alive and have, you hear something happens to someone close to them, someone they love, or, you're like, oh my gosh, right? And you just like, how fragile life is. And at some point, everyone's going to meet their end of story, right? And so, although, yeah, no one wants to be homeless and dirty and hungry, people get so caught up being on that hamster wheel, trying to flex on each other. Oh, what's your net worth? Like, they're going to inherit something, right? Like, what does that got to do with you? And like, is that going to help you in the afterlife? Are you trying to buy your way in somewhere? Is there an afterlife insurance policy that you can buy that ensures that, it's going to be okay? Or, you're going to realize that a lot of, your goals and aspirations were what, the Bible says too, is all in vain, right? Because you can see people amass great empires like we've seen in history, and then it just turned to dust, and that was it, right? And then their name's forgotten, and all of that stuff, right? Did you see the show on when I did not actually. I've been so busy. I did overtime this week. I've been actually learning great ways that also we can, start our own small businesses by what I've learned in my field because I see different niches, different opportunities that need to be filled. So I definitely want us to be more on like in a private space and stuff too that we can parlay but information with each other. But I've just been in a really creative element. I don't know if it's because we're heading into winter soon, and I don't know. I'm in that hibernation mode. It's so funny, so funny when they say women choose the bear or whatever. I'm like, oh, the bear is actually nicer and more friendly. Some of the stuff that's on here is ridiculous. A lot of people have lost their creative edge because you'll even have smaller channels and all they're doing is parroting and it's like off of each other. I don't know what this bird looks like. It could be a chimney sweep. You should look up those birds. Funny how I work with chimneys and all. Look up a chimney sweep bird. I've been just seeing a lot of bird symbologies. And I know some guys are like, oh, bird brain. And I'm like, yeah, okay. How much chicken do you eat? Okay, they're chicken head, so you are what you eat. That's really funny, right? That they do that. And maybe the chickens are a little crazy, poor things, right? Because everyone's eating their babies as soon as they lay their eggs. And most of these guys are the ones clucking, okay? But you got to soar high, right? But chimney sweeps are so cute. They got the cutest little face, and they end up nesting in the chimney for a little while. That's why you have to get your chimney swept periodically and things like that, because you can find birds' nests and all that stuff, and it can travel down. So I'm learning a lot, and I can help like guide people over the phone because we were getting like so many phone calls, and there's nothing like trying to leave on a Saturday because that's like our Friday, and it's 4:53, 7 minutes to closing, and you're getting these calls, and I'm like, I should have like a call service for like after hours. Like there's so many ideas, but yeah, I just been too busy because anytime I do like listen in even for 30 seconds, it's just like doesn't even do it for me. I'm like, wow, some of us can be more entertained and learning from our own content, right? And maybe, some bigger producers would like to team up with us. Who knows? I mean, your content, you could have celebrities and big time producers watching your your content and be like, wow, this person is very creative. I could have them on my team and all of that, because a lot of artists nowadays, I mean, they're not writing their own stuff. They're like giving it, you know what I mean? Unless you're like independent. But I mean, shoot, as long as I get, my little cut, I wouldn't mind sharing some of my lyrics, which I already do, because sometimes I'll come up with like cool song lyrics, and then I'm like, I'm sharing that and stuff, and I'm like, hey, someone could probably and they'll take some of your ideas, and then Hollywood all of a sudden will come out with a movie and make all these billions of dollars, and you're like, excuse me. Yeah, it's so funny. Well, it was making me think of like this little song I put together, right, with like the grinny, because when you think of like Janice and Tony Soprano, I freaking can't, right? Because a lot of us like will have lived through some things, and even though you can have love in your heart for some people, they're toxic and you have to move away, and you can see like how crazy life can get to, and that all the things that people listen to on the radio and idolize, like with the music and the rap stuff, a lot of times they're not actually living that. They haven't seen any of that, right? And I was raised like, I live like literally a block away from the projects, right? So we heard a lot of things. I've seen a lot of things, and a lot of people, and especially one of my first apartments, even though it was a beautiful apartment, it was huge, it was really affordable. It was like in the heart of downtown. And if I went on like a shady date, or I didn't know the person well, and I was like, damn, I should have brought my car. I didn't want them, like to know my address, because sometimes I've had that where they come like stalking you after or whatever. It's like, just use the phone, right? It's like, don't, you know what I mean? You could have just texted and apologized, but no. So I get nervous. I watch the news. I see what's out there. I didn't get to this age by being, as they say, goofy, right? And because you hear like a lot of things that happen to women, so I'd have them like drop me off at the nearest CVS or whatever, and I would just walk, and they would be really convenient. That place was like near the bakeries and all of this stuff, but there was a lot of hustle and bustle and stuff like that. And certain portions had like a bad reputation. I'm like, good, I make people scared to go there. Like nothing happened to me. But I treat people with respect. And a lot of times you can find like the best places to eat, the best everything, right? But you just move with tact, right? You don't have to be, if you're like, trying to act like you're all big and bad, if you just act like a normal individual, you know what I mean? Just be, I was just came from a hardworking family. Some white collar, some blue collar, you know what I mean? So I've seen like different neighborhoods where, one block could be this, could be Cape Verdean, then you got the Puerto Ricans over there, and then you got the Portuguese here, and then you got this, it's like all this stuff, right? So I've been around like, different type of things, right? So I guess, I just came up, it's just, I make my own kind of way, right? I make my own kind of style too, because I can like several different things too. People would be surprised at some of the music taste that I like, I can go from classical music to alternative, to a little bit of hip hop, to a little bit of rock, to a little bit of R&B, like pop even, you know what I mean? And a lot of the songs are just sampled from older songs, and it just keeps going back, right? So you're like, hey, it'd be nice to, especially if you're working with kids or whatever, you could be like an auntie or whatever, right? And, helping them, write and express themselves and do poetry or journal. That to me is really helpful to like clear your thoughts too, as opposed to, talking is really good too. I mean, I can see that, if you're really savvy, I mean, you don't really need to go to whoever to modify your behavior. You can modify yourself, right? You can be more mature. You can think before you act, right? You can see things into perspectives. I feel like I got the name, Diane, like, I go by Diana. Diane doesn't matter, right? That die, that split. I can split into, many different vantage points and ways of looking at things. So sometimes you can outgrow the different groups, or you can see that it's more of a popularity contest and everyone is trying to, uplift themselves, and they say it's for this reason or that reason, right? But, I guess with enough gimmicky, charisma, everyone, I guess, what do they say? Fake it till you make it, right? I guess if they, keep, making people think that that's what they are, right? Because they can see, you will see people who are average and have like this huge confidence, right? And they convince others to, sign on to what they're doing and things like that. So, I mean, you have to be like smart enough to know that, hey, you have your own talent, you can materialize it. Just because someone else is doing something doesn't mean, hey, they're so much smarter than you, you couldn't have come up with it yourself. And it may not be your thing, but stepping outside your comfort zone, like, hey, let God lead, and you don't have to put yourself in just this box or that box, you know what I mean? And you can wear many different hats, depending on, what I'm dealing with or whatever. I can, have different, vibes about me, more serious in one respect, more playful in another. And some people, right, they might look at you and think that, you're silly like they are, right? And then they see, wow, you got a lot of substance to you, right? And then they learn to back off. But it's because you almost have to like exude that energy, right? And I do it respectful. Some people like want to see, a battle rap or an argument or whatever. And that, some people, if they want to express themselves in a creative, artistic way, where it's, nonviolent and, they're saying a message. I think that could be like a great way. And, especially with the internet, raising awareness. But at the same time, there's so many weird synchronicities, right? And it makes you think like, is this stuff like for real? Am I seeing like premonitions? It's wild, right? And I was just, I came up with like a verse and then it led to another verse. And I'm like, wow, I could have made like 6 songs, which is more that's going to come up, right? I'll read some of these lyrics or whatever, right? It's not like I'm going to make it sound all pretty. I would need a beat. I would need to practice it, right? I'll have to do some clips or whatever. But it's interesting. You got to put it like in a certain cadence too. And I'm like, wow, I'm pretty good at rhyming, definitely. So, I mean, I just think it's interesting. You can definitely, I mean, who's to say, right? You can't make your own stories and your own testimonies, right? And write about it. And instead of just going to concerts and these public worship service, and some people, that does it for them. But I find like they're all talking about the same thing. It's not meant for people that have a deeper divine gift, right? It's very surface level. It's more like I wouldn't say like a counseling meeting, but what do they say? They call churches hospitals. It's like for sick people to get spiritual wellness, and the world's very sick. And that can be true indeed, but what happens when you're feeling well? And what happens when you can discern certain things and you ask the bigger questions and whatnot, and you try to use other sources too, and then you might be stuck with the roadblock. Then you realize, hey, I can do better. I can grow more alone, right? Because it's like having a flower in a small pot. It needs space to sprout its roots, kind of thing, right? So you could be like, hey, I have a whole curriculum in my spirit. God's given me like so much abundance that it can't be contained in this one little place. And it's really unfortunate because who needs, secret societies when these churches kind of operate as that? I've noticed that like if you're part of like the same churches as maybe your cousins or whoever, you will be receiving more phone calls, you will be receiving more invitations to meet and greets and things like that, because it's almost like if they can encapsulate, like they feel like you're on the same playing field as them, like spiritually, you know what I mean? You're both like believing exactly the same thing. Then they don't feel like, any type of qualm about that or insecurity. Because if you're coming with like a deeper perspective, they might think, hey, are they really saved like they thought they were? Are they really good? Were they, being like those who were just given lip service or whatever, those types too? Compromising like the different churches in the Bible were too, being more liberal with certain things, right? And yet being, limiting women's abilities too, because that's found in many different churches, right? So that's why there's no surprise too that you'll hear girls who've been to like private schools, they kind of lash out when they get and things like that, right? Because they've been so suppressed. And were they spiritually fed? Half of them, they'll be doing the most after and things like that. And, some of them, it's comfortable to them. It's what their mommy does. It's what their daddy does. They can't, grow past that, right? But at the end of all of it, I mean, it's God, your creator, however you want to envision him, right? Some people like sheep. I mean, that's a whole other discussion. Are you going to blame just, oh, I followed this person. Oh, the majority of the world was doing this, right? Because, at the same time, they're not using their own verses for what they are, broad is the way to death kind of thing too. So you might get written off like you're a little strange, you're a little contemporary, or you can be a little ancient. You're almost like they don't know how to perceive you, and they can, mislabel you and call it, evil when it's something righteous. And it's sad. It's just because they weren't given those divine gifts, right? So to them, it's not meant to make sense, right? Because if they were so connected, they would see that, right? And they would see beyond the veil a little bit and people's intentions and things like that, right? So I wrote a little bit of my notes, right? I'm not going to like wrap it too much or whatever, but it was like I was kind of inspired just by watching a lot of stuff and how a lot of celebrities or whatever, they push like a certain lifestyle, and certain guys too, and just people in general, like, and just people who are really like, into the material, although it's not just about, okay, capitalism. It's not just about, getting the biggest house or outdoing your neighbor. Did you keep your soul as clean as possible in a dirty world? Even the Egyptians knew you're supposed to keep your heart like light as a feather, right? Because a heavy heart, yes, you can have a lot of sadness too, but that can also mean like having a lot of guilt and shame that people have not processed. So the first step is to repent, is to pivot if you're on the wrong path, right? And you can process that in different ways. You can, try to verbalize it. A lot of people's aggravation too is they cannot articulate their emotions, or they can be raised up in a family or in a culture where expressing yourself is frowned upon, or only certain people can do it, right? Or we're in a very classist system, and it's like the only class you need to be worried about is the one you're going to be after you check out of here, right? Because, the story of the rich man and the poor man, what happened to them in the afterlife. And I think a lot of that, regardless of what the origin was, is very true indeed. Because, you can kind of see that, hey, they can show a lot of a person's character, right? You can learn a lot about people if they have or they have not, right? And if their personality will change, if they will sell out, or, they will be, disrespectful or whatever, look down upon people. So it's like really important to be grateful and know that, hey, you may not feel like you have everything that you want, but it's enough. It's your portion. It's for you. It's separate. It's, you know what I mean? And you're not trying to compete with anyone else, because a lot of people's lives are super basic. And it's like, oh, I want X, Y, Z. I'm like, that is so basic. Doesn't your soul yearn for more? And they just fed whatever information, and they judge other people based on if they blindly accept that, not that they were out there proving it themselves, right? And a lot of people are they repel each other because it takes a real one to decipher a fake one too. And you have a lot of people who will misread what you're saying, right? And not look at what they're saying, or their favorites, right? Where it's so easy for people to be, sitting in their freaking basement or on their couch and pointing the finger and saying, you need to do that, or you need to, America is this, America is that, leave the country, go do this. And then you hear about, people not ready to do that, ruining their lives, making a mess of themselves, right? Getting into harmful situations while the person's just sitting there, like twiddling their thumbs, not moving an inch. Like, so if you're not practicing what you preach, who are you to tell others yay or nay? You need to just shut it, okay? And by the time they come on my path, it is not good. It's like, don't be scared of me. It's because, hey, just like with the Grim Reaper, a lot of these people think, death, or, the onset of their demise is going to come like, in a really scary format. A lot of people end up checking out of here around things that make them smile. make them feel good, right? Because they're so damn hedonistic, right? And then, or they try to play with the wrong person. And I love those type of movies, right? Where they try to prey on someone who they think is weak, and then that person outsmarts them, or that person was like undercover. I love seeing movies where like angels are undercover, right? And they have to blend in with society. That should be like the story of Grinny Reaper, where she blends into the society, but she'll smile at you when she knows your time is near. So be careful, bro. But I find it really funny because you can call things, you can have that divine intuition that you're like, this person's on borrowed time, the way they're acting or they're living. You don't know why. You'll see certain things, you'll feel certain things, right? You'll see things ahead of time. I mean, no one does that to a doctor when they give someone a prognosis. Like, no one calls them a seer or all these weird names, right? When they're like, oh, you have 3 months to live. Who are you to say that? And you know how many people who beat those odds too? But like, okay, what if they are right? And, just by hearing certain symptoms, does that mean it's just like you're doing a lot of deductive reasoning too? But there is something to be said too, for not having all like the modern, conveniences of having all those tools, and to still call certain things out is pretty extraordinary. And when you hear certain stories of like detectives and whatnot not being able to solve cases and all of that, actually talking to spiritual people that can give them, some understanding, it's pretty deep, and they solve a lot of cases. I mean, didn't Daniel have some dreams too? There's, a lot of people in the Bible, and a lot of people just want to give all the blessings to men, right? And forget that women have, a lot of insight. And, I research a lot of people in history, and there's some, really strong women who had, really powerful insight, but they were mislabeled. They got mislabeled as, some horrible people, because you know what? This world fears what they can't control. And especially some men too, right? Because they don't really operate in love. They just operate in trying to make you scared enough, right? So they can control you. And that's all it is. And a lot of people, they live life like it's VIP, right? They think like, oh, status and all that. But at the end, you still meet the same end. And I know people who put, they can have X amount of dollars or whatever and have all this. And you can know someone that is just, blue collar, regular working, and have a more fulfilled life and be healthier and last a lot longer. And the person who had everything, they could die abruptly and it turned to dust. And it's like, what does that matter? Does that change anything after all this? Does it really, right? So yes, my voice is crack-a-lacking, and I want to step out before all the stores close today because I never have time to do any of my errands, no. So this little birdie got to fly soon. But yeah, so like, if you're musically inclined, this is really great to process things too. Like, God could be giving us divine inspiration and downloads so we can share it and make our own multimedia or music or mini movies or whatever, and have it like have a real message and display something of value, and not just get caught up in like a 2-step freaking nursery rhyme beat, right? And when the Bible talks about the truth coming out of the mouth of babes, it makes me think too of a lot of children's stories that hide a lot of truisms in there too, where they appeal to the children and yet, say all these fantastical tales, a lot of paranormal tales, you name it, right? And yet, when you grow older, they try to say those things don't exist. Those things are not real, but yet it's in the media. They present it to the children young too. And then the children can see, they grapple with a lot of that stuff too, because they're still closer to like the spiritual world. So that's why a lot of that stuff, like, they gravitate toward, right? And then, you know, when you grow up, they say, oh, this stuff, oh, it's not real, it's not this, right? But so yeah, you can be divinely inspired. A lot of rockers too, a lot of people say like, oh, they can get it from like the dark side. Yeah, I don't know what those people are doing. I know that I just live my own little peaceful existence. I've seen enough things, right? I have the same lives as a lot of you, right? I just interpret what I see. I just try to make sense out of it, right? And I try not to emulate too much out there, right? That's not good for me, right? I try not to be trendy. I don't care. I'm not, you know, trying to be a people pleaser, you know, that's very inauthentic. So you can't worry about that, you know, even if you feel a little bit silly and it's not your norm, you know, give it a go, put something out there, you know. My favorite thing to do is definitely like brainstorm, be creative. I'm going to stop baking again. I'm feeling a lot better. So I'm going to bake my orange cake, which is like amazing, right? So that's going to be a treat, right? And just do things a way where, you know, you don't need to be around, you know, too much, but you're still finding like joy. And I'm just so happy of like the talents that I do get. And so that to me is like a blessing, right? And because I know at the end, you know, we don't know the day or the hour where we're going to be done with all this. There's no guarantee people are going to live to be freaking 80 years old or beyond. There is no guarantee. So when people are like pointing at each other or, oh, you're old, or, oh, you're this, it's like, that makes no damn sense. And it's like, that means that they want to cut their life short too, right? Because they really, you know, they don't realize that it's like, yeah, that's kind of the nature for everything. If people really overanalyze that, they would freak out that you were born, right? You came from somewhere, your spirit, you came from somewhere, right? And you're going to go somewhere, right? There's so many questions. And it's like, yeah, the more you talk, the more time's going to speed up for you. And you're going to be at that point too. And you're going to be going through it. And you're going to be lucky if you even make it to that too. So it's good to learn from whoever you can, right? And know that it might have been a blessing for that person to be in your life. But just like with the bird, right? Shout out to the empty nesters. You know, you got to fly too. You know, you're not supposed to just shrivel up and die after certain milestones in your life. God has like so much in store for you. So like, you got to keep going, right? Sometimes people could have tried to clip your wings or put your soul or your mind in a cage, right? Because, you know, there's a lot of people who put each other on survival mode. There's a lot of people who are on survival mode. It's really hard for people to even go live and go this long. I've been going almost an hour just freestyling my thoughts. Some people, they have a hard time doing that. They got to take breaks. They got to edit. They got to do that. They need a whole panel of people. You know, hey, if, you know, my channel goes anywhere, I'm a one-woman show. I really respect those who can just stand on their own too. And if they work with other people, great. But they're so talented on their own that they can, you know what I mean? They can steer the boat on their own pretty much. So, they live life like it's VIP just to end up with Grimmy Ree, right? The Grim Reaper. So I was like, oh, what good beat would be for this? I don't know. I was listening to that song. You're a jerk, 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 jerk. Then I came up with a hook. It was, you're a jerk. You need that perk. 'Cause your soul got murked. You should have never been birthed, right? So this was pretty good too. Just a couple of like lines. Don't need a smooth beat. I'll be at the track meet while you got some slow feet. This will work just fine. I'll see you at the finish line. I forgot to put finish. It's supposed to start with, hey, hey, listen up, or don't. Right, I can definitely be a hype person. I'll see you at the finish line. We got to put finish line, right? The finish line, the race of life. the race of life, right? So yeah, someone got to put a beat. I need someone who can flow quickly. But I'm a good writer. So I got the lyrics, I got the stuff, right? And you can kind of like do your own intro. Like I would love to do an intro, right? Because we have our different sides of our personalities, right? So it's so cute. Like, so people receive me in different ways because depending how they treat me, you might get like super disrespected. And of course, you're going to feel righteous indignation, that even God gets mad. Hello. And so they might get that side of you, right? But if they come really sweet and correct, that's why I'm not worried if, I share some of my story. That doesn't mean, I'm weak or this. It means that, yeah, you know what I mean? I can defend myself, but you know what I mean? I know that this is a spiritual battle. It's not a flesh and blood, right? That, so I can take the principles I was raised with and like break through further and get my own PhD, right? In theology, right? And the Lord's theology, the real theology. He leads me to the right books. He leads me to the right insight. This just came from the top of my dome. I was in the shower for a minute. I'm getting all these weird, like I'll see something and I'll be like, hey, and then I'll want to like make my own lyrics. It's so funny, but like I got to do it. You have to have all your sounds equipment, right? All right, so my next verse. So we have like a hook, right? The hook can be, they live life, right? They live life like it's VIP just to end up with Grimmy Ree. So that's the Grim Reaper. So they're talking all that jazz. Everyone thinks they're so much better. Oh, I went to this trip. Oh, I got this car. It's like you treat life like, okay, what does that got to do later? Don't try to size me up. I'm not in competition with anyone. My divine gifts are VIP just for me, okay? If you don't mind. So, I guess you can do some, like, so I have them broken up into different verses, right? And then you can go in with the hook. I was almost going to use the jerk one, but then I'm like, nah, I like this one too, right? Because I'm like, I'm coming up with the Grinny Ree, the Grim Reaper sister, since everyone wants to like, analyze my dark feminine energy nature, right? Even though I can have that happy-go-lucky sunny side, right? I am in touch with, God made the lesser light and the greater light. So I can have respect for, all of that, right? Without being, so caught up and like, worshiping these things, So I do have a divine source. And just because God endowed us with divine gifts doesn't mean, I'm saying I'm so divine. I'm like, no, I'm getting I don't need man. I don't need whoever. I'll let God tell it at the end of the day, right? You may not believe, that's fine. Live long enough and, try to explain some of the explainable that you will see, right? They call me super mean because I move like Mrs. Clean. I scrub their ego clean when they treat me like I'm green. Try that again. They call me super mean because I move like Mrs. Clean. I scrub their ego lean when they treat me like I'm green. Exactly. They be treating some of us like we're greenhorns. Like, I'll show you. I fly so high. I hide behind the sky. Can't even see their evil eye. They think I might die, but I have my own pie. How am I going to change that? I fly so high. I hide behind the sky. Can't even see their evil eye. They hoping I die, but I'm eating my own pie. Can do it like that too. Shoo. I don't want a piece of their pie. You can keep your poison pie. I don't need a little sliver. I'll get my own pie. The Most High will give you your own portion. Thank you. And it'll be whole, okay? You can call me Diana Day. Remember, I used that word on my little gavel, D-E-Y. You can call me Diana Day. I like to forge my own way and show you it can be okay. We'll save that for another day. Maybe I could do it. Maybe I could, y'all. Maybe I could. Never looking back. You need a jack to move that stack. They look at you, their heart attacks. They look at you and their heart attacks. That's a good one. There's some nuggets in here. There's some nuggets in here. Okay? You're a jerk. You need that perk. Because your soul got murked. You lost your worth. Should have never been birthed. Or you can say, because your soul got murked. You can't see my worth. You should have never been birthed. Woo! That's why I got to be called Grinny Ree. Because I'll be grinning when I'm killing these fools. Yes, Lord. When I'm righteously killing these. You can do it in a, in a righteous way. Poetry with purpose. Right? Our Father that art in heaven. Why you always got me seeing 7. Help me cut out all that leaven. Another verse. Dear Father, I pray my soul you keep. I dash these demons that roll real deep. Let them weep at their deceit. I stay strong until we meet. In my dreams I hear from God. But when I wake up, life is still hard. If you live enough, you will be scarred. Okay, another verse. I hear from God in my dreams. He shows me cryptic scenes. Dia Dash moves with class, only turning up to toss the trash. I see through their lies, and this they despise. That's the price of being queen. It's her birthright, not Maybelline. Been born to change this machine and keeping her head high and pristine. That's right. They live life like it's VIP. Just to end up with Grimmy Ree. Praise the Most High, right? So I'm saying, like, we can do our own female bands, okay? You got an instrument. I like the violin. I'm like, man, we can put some instruments together. I know this is kind of like, and then you got like arrows. I'm like, this is how my mind works. Oh, there was a really good verse too right here. They ask how this could be. I say it's prophecy. I think methodically. It's a blessing, don't you see? Praise the Most High. And that's why I got that other part too while we were talking. I'm so high in the sky, leaving their mouths dry. Then one steps, I'm gonna cry. I know, it's so funny. I had different ones too, like, yeah. So you can say your story in a methodic way, and turn it into, music or a poem or a story and make it entertaining and inspire other people too. And that's why I started Dia Dash. It's like a, grassroots production house. And I guess not realizing I've been so professional, people mix me up with others, which is crazy. But that's part of my estate. This is my my estate book and my intellectual property and, how it's important. It's like, hey, this is common law, copyright, time stamped, all that. I do have my copyright notice. So all my intellectual property, has been already recorded. So when people are like, ooh, it's like, yeah, so yeah, I mean, I like to inspire. That's great. But I'm not singing to anyone's tune. I got my own tune. All I need is a beat. All I need is my own music. If I, had more time, this is definitely something that I could cultivate. And, you can make your own, your own thing, your own great accomplishments and do it, representing God. But, you can do it where you're saying a meaningful message, you're expressing your story, right? And you can, help others do the same too. And I think more people, we can help each other bring that out of us, because that is a wonderful, that's a spiritual fellowship in itself, right? And no matter where you are in the world, God is not built in a house, as they say, with man's hands, right? He can reside in your house, your body, your soul. You don't need anybody to define that for you. A lot of people need like a whole team, a whole crew to make them amazing, right? And then they talk about Jesus. I thought he was a loner. I thought he, was ostracized and all that. And it's funny because a lot of people, they like watching this stuff on TV, and it gets their ish off, right? Because they can watch it in a safe space where they're not going through it themselves. So they're not going to get that experience, right? You have to be tested. God has to refine you. He got to, put you in those situations where, your chest is feeling tight and whatever, because, that's when you got to lean on him the most, That's when people are like, Jesus Christ, or, oh my God, even the most atheist person is calling on God when they don't know which way they're going, right? I know my hair, I need a hair appointment so bad. I need to stop playing with my hair so much. Even they don't know which way is going, right? So, you can definitely, have that experience wherever. And I think, some of us can share that on here too. And, we don't need to just be in, different churches or whatever. We can be the church, right? And we can convene wherever, and we can make our own works too. And, have people kind of move with that too, and teach people to be more literate. That's a big passion of mine, to read the good book for themselves and be inspired for themselves, instead of, if you need to fellowship, that's fine. But there's another thing, just going to mega churches, letting them spout you off a few verses, right? And then just singing the whole time. That's all they're doing. I'm like, this is like a modern day concert. And, that's what a lot of people are doing, But, I know people are feeling alone. So, hey, this is, my study room for everyone. And, I could be one of those, creative teachers that will be like, hey, you don't like the music that's out there? Create your own music. You don't like the clothes that's out there? Create your own. You know what I mean? We need more artists, more people to create their own stuff, instead of having people play the same crap over and over again. I'm like, aren't people getting sick of it? It's just a remake, more remakes. Even the movies are all remakes. Why can't we start with some new, fresh stuff? Like, don't people have like their testimonies that they can turn into like a cool story or whatever? I mean, isn't that what Hollywood's doing? They just take people's life stories and then having actors recite the lyrics. But yeah, they don't give the original character any type of glory. They look at the actor just playing the role. But I'm like, if people, it's one, and people will pay to watch this stuff on the big screen, but they don't want to live around it. They don't even relate to some of it too. And some of us, we do find some type of like release when we watch some of this stuff, because it does hit close to home. And it's like, oh my gosh, a lot of either we're living parallel lives, or they're making movies out of some of the stuff, right? And it's sad too, but people need to see it so they don't glorify certain lifestyles. And, realize that, you can learn from it, and, not want to deal with that stuff, and still treat people with respect, and not let, circumstance or, how you feel determine, how you're going to treat other people, right? And have a healthy fear of God, right? And not just be about, money and all of that. That's just a tool that's supposed to be a defense. But some people will do so much that they will throw away their own soul. And that's why they're numbing themselves. That's why they're hating on everyone, because they're the ones who are willing to risk it all and do the most, right? Just to have that temporary, that satisfaction. And at the end, how are you going to explain that one, right? That's why I say to people when they're bullshitting, like, yeah, tell it to the judge. Tell it to your God. Okay, really. You can bullshit me, right? But you can't bullshit, right? The one up above, right? And people are like, oh yeah, you're Sky Daddy. Listen, wherever he lives. Maybe he's beyond the realm. Maybe it's a whole, like, whatever. A lot of people will gaslight you into, having no faith at all, right? Because they threw themselves and their soul away a long time ago, and they want you to do the same, right? And you can still be, down to earth, and not be all about it too, right? And know that there's an after. Love you guys. Have a good day. Thank you so much. I know I've been going on and on and on and making myself exhausted. Well said. Thank you so much. Yeah, I can get really philosophical, right? And I know some of the stores are going to close. So before the night is over, I'm going to go step out. But email me if you want. You know my phone number, sweetheart. Thank you so much for supporting me and liking my content. Try to share my video. I will be sharing a lot of your stuff too. And hopefully I inspired you all today. Thank you, sister. I appreciate you all. Take care.